In this video, I'm going to show how to place the high pressure fuel pump on this Lexus IS250. Located on the back of your passenger side valve cover, let's get started. Remove your engine cover if your vehicle has one. There should be one here, but mine is already missing, so I'm going to skip this step. It'll be attached with a 10mm bolt in the back, in the center, and then 2 pins at the front that you can just pry up on. Let's get this intake tubing out of the way. We'll start with the clamp that's near the air box, and we'll use a 10mm socket to loosen that up. With this loosened up, we'll leave it right here for now. A little bit further up, you'll see this hose right here. It's got a clamp that you can pinch with your hand, twist it, and pull it right off. On the throttle body side, there's a 10mm headed screw that holds this clamp down tight, and we need to loosen this up to release pressure off the clamp. All right, now you can pull this off the throttle body and off of the air filter, and there we go. Let's remove the throttle body off of the intake manifold. It's got 4 10mm headed bolts. Now we can pull this away. I'm going to unplug it just so that there isn't any excessive pressure on the pins or the wires on the connector, and we're just going to let it hang right here. Now if we pull the throttle body away gently, there is supposed to be a bracket right here. Mine is missing. Somebody has taken it off and not put it back on. It should have a 10mm headed bolt going through here and 2 right in here. Again, it's missing. At this point, you would want to remove it. At the front of the engine, right behind the radiator, you'll see the radiator cap. Let's remove this. Make sure the engine's cold, of course. Turn it counterclockwise. Sometimes you might need to press down on it in order to release it. It'll click once, and then it'll click again, and only then can you pull it off. Set this aside. Underneath the vehicle on the front where the radiator is, typically there's a shield here. Mine is missing, but you would either want to partially remove it or completely remove it with a 10mm socket and a trim tool for some push clips. Or if you reach around, you might be able to access this because that shield is supposed to have a hole for the coolant to drain through, so you may not even have to remove it. Regardless, turn this counterclockwise and unthread it. That will allow coolant to drain, and we'll just let this completely drain. This is done draining, so I'll thread this back in to close it off. Make sure that it's snug, but it's plastic, so once it bottoms out, tiny bit extra, put some pressure on it, and that's it. Wipe off anything that's still dripping, and then if you had a shield right here, put it back on. Let's remove these 2 hoses from the top. Both of them have a plastic retainer that locks in the clamp, so we're going to need to pry this down and out. We need to get this off of here so we can actually remove the clamp. Now with pliers, pull the clamps back. Also with pliers, very gently twist these. That's going to help break them free. A lot of times over time, from the heat cycles, they'll get stuck onto the aluminum. And once you've done that, pull them straight off. Now you have 2 options. You can remove these 2 10mm headed bolts on the bracket that holds this coolant passage on the back side, or if you follow that bracket down and you come in right through here with a 10mm ratchet wrench, you can remove just 1 bolt off of the engine block with that whole bracket and everything. That's the way I'm going to do it. It's more difficult to see, I would say, but easier to reach. All right, I got that bolt out. Now we can push this out of the way so we can get our fuel pump out. Now with a 22mm wrench, let's remove the fuel pressure damper. There we go, just break that free, and you should be able to spin it off by hand. Keep in mind, fuel will leak out of here. It's going to be fairly difficult to get anything down here to absorb the fuel that's going to leak, but I will try my best. Okay, take that out. There's a couple crush washers here. Make sure you remove those as well. Now this line can be pulled to the side. Let's unplug this electrical connector up top. Press on that tab and slide it off. And with a 19mm wrench, let's unthread the fitting that holds this fuel line going to the high pressure fuel rail. Break it free and unthread it the rest of the way. All right, now there's a hose down here that we have to remove. So we're gonna have to pinch this clamp with some pliers. A needle nose would be ideal. Slide it away and then pull the hose off very gently. Try not to damage it. All right. Now on each side of this high pressure fuel pump, there will be a 12mm mounting nut. One is right here, one is on the back. Let's unbolt both of these slowly, a little bit at a time, because there could be upwards pressure from the camshaft on the lobe that rides inside this fuel pump. There's one, and there's the second. It's very important that you go back and forth on these. Now, move things out of the way that are in your way here so you can slowly lift this up. Okay, and there it is. There's a little plate here that's basically a gasket. Take this off. Now we have to clean the mating surface, and you can see there's some remainder of the old gasket here, so we have to scrape this off. Be very careful not to scrape into the engine. Scrape away and use either a razor blade or a gasket scraper. Push all this off. This is also aluminum, so you don't want to gouge it with anything like a screwdriver or some sort of coarse sanding pad or disc. So you want to make sure that this is flat, debris-free, and that there's no gasket left and nothing falls in the engine. Just to be safe, I'm actually going to put a rag in here, and that will basically plug the hole for me. With the surface cleaned up, let's get our paper towel or rag out of here. And now if you had your new fuel pump, you would slide it on. I'm sliding it on with the gasket already on it. Make sure that goes on, of course. Make sure that the high pressure fuel line lines up. Now it's actually bottoming out on the cam lobe. So let's put the two mounting nuts on and start tightening it up. Just like when removing it, we're going to go a little bit at a time. Okay, that's bottomed out and snugged. Let's torque it down. Torque this to 18 foot-pounds. Double check them. Okay. Now let's reinstall this hose. And resecure it with its clamp. This high pressure fuel line already lined up when we installed the pump, and you want to make sure that it did, because if it didn't, you'd have to take the pump back out. And I'm going to start this fitting on and then snug it up. That's tight. I'll give it a little extra, and that right there is plenty. This gets torqued to 22 foot-pounds, but I can't torque it because I don't have a crow's foot adapter so that I can actually put a torque wrench on it. So if you also don't, just do your best to get it nice and snug. Plug in this electrical connector at the top. Make sure it clicks. Now let's reinstall this fuel pressure damper again. There are some washers on here that are going to seal up, so you want to make sure the surface is clean. This goes through kind of like a banjo bolt on brakes, and then put the other washer on this side and then thread it in. This also has a torque. It's 30 foot-pounds if you're using a crow's foot adapter. If you're not using a crow's foot adapter and you're using the special tool designed for this, it'll be 25 foot-pounds. But regardless, I can't torque it because I don't have a 22mm crow's foot for my ratchet. So I'm just going to put my wrench on this and make it nice and tight. That's bottomed out. Just a little extra to crush those washers, and there you go. Time to resecure these coolant pipes. So I have the bolt started. I'm trying to thread it in by hand as far as I can, and then I'll just tighten it up by hand with my ratcheting wrench from up here. And that is bottomed out. Okay, that got snug. Give it a little extra. That should be plenty tight right there. That's resecured. Let's reattach these two hoses. They pretty much just fall back into place where they came from, and resecure them with their two clamps. And if you still had these plastic locks and you wanted to put them back, go right ahead and reattach them. All right, let's line up the throttle body with the air intake. I'm going to start on all 4 bolts, and then we'll bottom them out and torque them. I'm going to snug these up in a cross pattern so that this can seat evenly. We'll torque these to 7 foot-pounds in a cross pattern. All right, those are tight. Plug this in, make sure it clicks. Reinstall the air inlet tube. Put it on one side first, and then on the other side. It should slide over smoothly. Reattach this hose in the center, and secure it with the clamp. Snug up one of the clamps. You don't need to go until it's completely tightened. You just need to go until it's snug enough to where you can't spin this, and that's plenty. Same goes for this. Snug it up. If you can't spin it, that's perfect. Now, if you had an engine cover, you'd put it back on. Again, mine is missing. It's time to fill up our cooling system, and I recommend using one of these spill-proof funnels if you have access to one, because it makes it a whole lot easier to fill without spilling, of course, and it helps in the bleeding process. This is now the highest point in the system, and naturally, air is going to want to rise up into this funnel as coolant gets pulled in. We're going to fill up this funnel and let it bubble out. We're going to keep filling it until no more air bubbles come out of the funnel. Once it has settled, turn the vehicle on and let the engine run. That's going to circulate the coolant through the system as the water pump pumps it through. Therefore, we'll push any excess air out of the system and pull in all the coolant. Turn the temperature of the heat all the way up inside the vehicle with the blower set to low so it doesn't cool the engine off too much, and just feel for it. You want to make sure it's blowing really hot air out of the vents so that you know the heater core is full of coolant. Once the engine is at operating temperature, the thermostat has opened up and the air bubbles are no longer showing up in the funnel, you know the coolant system is bled. At that point, we can remove the funnel. All right, let's pull our funnel off. Reinstall the radiator cap. Make sure you lock it in fully, and that is filled up.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.